Do you wake up with the feeling that everyone around you is further ahead, and the gap is growing? There is a specific kind of suffering that does not come from failure. It comes from looking sideways. At the friend who bought a house. At the colleague who got promoted. At the man online who is 32 and already built what you have not started. It is not grief over what you lost. It is anxiety over what you have not yet done. And it runs quietly in the background of everything, coloring how you see your own life. The Stoics would call this a confusion of what is yours and what is not. But before we get there, it is worth understanding why this feeling is so persistent. Because it is not irrational. The comparison is real. The man who bought the house did buy a house. The colleague did get promoted. The distance between where you are and where others are is not imagined. So why does Stoicism say the feeling is still a mistake? Because the measure is wrong. Not the facts. The measure. When you feel behind, you are implicitly accepting that there is a single race with a single track, and that everyone on it started at the same time with the same conditions and is heading toward the same finish line. None of that is true. The man you are comparing yourself to had different parents, a different nervous system, different early experiences, different access, different luck on a dozen variables you cannot see from where you are standing. You are not running the same race. You are not even in the same stadium. Marcus Aurelius understood this about time and progress. He wrote extensively about focusing on what is within your control rather than on outcomes that depend on factors outside it. The comparison trap is a perfect example of the opposite. You are measuring yourself against an outcome you did not design, using a timeline you did not set, on a path you did not choose. And then feeling like you are failing. There is also something worth examining about what behind actually means to you. Behind what, exactly? Behind a social expectation about when a man should have certain things. Behind a version of your life that you imagined at 20 and have not updated since. Behind what your father had at your age, or did not have, depending on which direction your wound runs. The benchmark is almost never examined. It is just inherited. And an inherited benchmark running in the background of your psychology is one of the most effective ways to stay permanently dissatisfied regardless of what you actually build. Seneca wrote that a man who does not know which harbor he is sailing for will find no wind favorable. The comparison anxiety is a version of this problem. You are watching other ships move and measuring their speed against yours without asking whether you are going to the same place. Maybe you are not. Maybe where they are heading would make you miserable. But you are still using their position to define your failure. Here is what the anxiety of being behind actually does to your movement. It creates urgency without direction. You start doing things faster, or doing more things, not because you have clarity about what you are building, but because the feeling of being behind demands action. Any action. And action without direction rarely closes the gap you are afraid of. It just generates noise. And noise, after a while, is exhausting. And exhaustion produces the thing you were afraid of in the first place. Stagnation. The Stoic correction is not optimism. It is not a reassurance that everything will work out. The Stoics were not interested in comfort. The correction is a question: what is actually yours to work on today? Not what should you have done by now. Not what does the man across from you have that you do not. What is the thing in front of you, in this day, that moves you toward what you have decided matters? That question is the whole reorientation. From horizontal comparison to vertical attention. From measuring sideways to moving forward. It sounds simple. It is not. Because the pull of the comparison is strong, and it is constant, and it feels like reality even when it is a distortion. It helps to understand what the comparison is protecting. Because it is protecting something. Most men who live inside the feeling of being behind are also avoiding a specific clarity about their own direction. As long as you are measuring yourself against others, you do not have to fully commit to your own path. If it is not working, it is because you are behind. When you catch up, then you will really start. The comparison becomes a holding pattern. A reason to not be fully here yet. Epictetus taught that the obstacle to the examined life is not ignorance. It is the avoidance of what the examination might reveal. If you stop comparing and sit quietly with your own life, you might have to look at choices you have been postponing. You might have to admit a direction you have not committed to. You might have to start something that could fail, visibly, without the excuse of being behind to protect you. That vulnerability is real. And it is the price of actually moving. Not moving faster than the man next to you. Moving towards something that is actually yours. You are not behind. You have been measuring yourself against a timeline that was never designed for you, using milestones that were never yours, toward a destination you may not have consciously chosen. The work is not to catch up. The work is to examine what you are actually building and why, and then to move toward that with the full weight of your attention. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Confine yourself to the present. Not as a comfort. As a discipline. The present is the only place where anything actually happens. The behind lives in comparison. The ahead lives in anxiety. The only real ground is here, in what you can actually do with this day. When you stand on that ground long enough, the comparison loses its grip. Not because you are winning the race, but because you have stopped running theirs."